Hello, everyone, and welcome to KB Sports World. I am your host, LaKisha KB Brooks. This is our first show. We are super duper excited. I have my co-host with me, Tank. Tank, you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we dive in? Just tell them a little bit about yourself. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay. I'm Russell Tanker, aka Tank. I'm excited to be here co-hosting with you. I'm particularly a football fanatic, and I like contact sports, but also like talking about sports in general as far as the psychology and the things involved behind it and what makes sports such a interesting microcosm of society. So I'm looking forward to having a good time.
Awesome. Great, great, great. So I'm super excited to have you join me today for our first ever episode. So again, I'm LaKisha KB Brooks. I'm super excited to do this. I have been on this sports broadcasting journey for 20 years. Went to Georgia State to study sports broadcasting, ended up in entertainment journalism. Actually, it's pretty similar though. If you think about entertainment and sports, that's kind of what ESPN is for those that don't know. That's what it's about. So I started with that, and I'm excited to be here to share all this sports knowledge with you all. We're going to start with the weekly rewind. This is where we're going to talk about some of those top stories from the past week. And then we're going to take 3 of those topics and we're going to dive into those a little bit more. And then Tank is going to lead us in a discussion about one gots to go. I know it's not grammatically correct, but we're going to have 4 different athletes. And so today we're going to talk about 4 different athletes, and we're going to talk about which one of those have to go. We're going to talk about their global impact on their sport. So who had the least amount of impact on their sport? Now, I will share with you that all 4 of these athletes are phenomenal. I'm going to tell you, every single one of them have had a global impact on their sport. But the challenge here is who's had the biggest impact? It's going to be 3 of them that have to stay and 1 has to go. And then we're going to have an interview and we're going to talk about the NIL. This has been something that has been controversial. This has been something that people say is pay for play. So we want to hear from someone who's working with student athletes and who was a former student athlete herself to talk about NIL and its impact on sports. Is it here to stay? What is it going to do to college sports? Is it tainting our college sports as well? So let's talk about the weekly rewind. So I have my notes here. So the first thing, Golden Knights, they won their first ever Stanley Cup. Yay, congratulations. Woo-hoo-hoo. We don't really have any confetti or anything like that. Now, in a second, I'm going to ask Tank what he thinks about that, because what he did not tell you is that he lives in Vegas. So, whoop, 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 whoop. So that's the thing. The weekly rewind is that they won their first ever Stanley Cup. Speaking of first ever wins, Denver Nuggets defeated the Miami Heat 4-1 to win their first ever NBA Finals. Now, for me, this breaks my little heart. I am a little biased. I love the Miami Heat. I am such a Heat fan. I love the Miami Heat. Their journey was phenomenal in the playoffs. They have one of the best coaches in the league, but Denver Nuggets did prevail. They did win their first ever championship. We are going to talk a little bit about them as well, because we're going to talk about, is Jokic the best player in the world right now? I don't know. We're going to talk about that in a second. Also, Lil Wayne offered to mentor and provide advice to John Morant. Well, he didn't really accept it. And we just found out that John Morant's suspension has been handed down. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Brittany Griner had a provocateur at the airport. So now there's a question about WNBA player safety. So we want to dive into that. Maybe not as much this show, but definitely want to think about that. Is there a need for more player safety for the WNBA? As they do have provocateurs, they do have people that do provoke them as well. What would that look like going forward? We also have the Live Tour and PGA Tour have combined. Whoop, 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 whoop. We're going to talk about that in more detail next week. So if you love golf, like the 2 of us do, right, Tank? We love golf. We love golf. So we're going to talk about it in more detail. So if you want to talk about more about golf next week, make sure to join us as well. All right. And lastly, Olympic gold medalist Tori Bowie passed away from complications from her pregnancy. We are going to talk about that a little bit later. That was very heartbreaking to hear. A young woman passing away in childbirth. We'll talk a little bit about the condition that she had, what impact that has on us as a society as we talk about Black women and healthcare, especially when they're pregnant. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about 2 other athletes that had complications in childbirth as well and how that impacts them. So those are our weekly rewinds, and we're going to dive into 3 of these topics. Oh, wait, I forgot. Tank did tell us that he's a football guy, right? So Tank,
Yep.
did you want to talk to us a little bit about Saquon Barkley and his contract disputes? Share a little bit with us about what's going on with Saquon.
Well, Saquon Barkley is entering his refused to sign his franchise tag. He wants a long-term deal. Most athletes want a long-term deal for security, for they know where they're going to be, as well as also the money and the guaranteed money. But the reason they don't like the franchise tag is because it's guaranteed money for that year. And if you're injured or whatnot and can't resume your career, that's it. You're not going to make that kind of money again unless you really have what it takes to become a media personality. Saquon is a running back. Running backs over the years have just been devalued for whatever reason. It really makes no sense because they do, outside of your quarterback, they do more than anyone else on the offensive side of the ball. They have to run, they have to catch, they also have to pass protect. And the fact that they don't want to pay these guys what they're worth and just basically to keep the market down is really ridiculous. And Saquon is standing up, not just for himself, but for those other backs who are coming up as well. Because you're seeing a lot of backs who are getting waived or getting cut right after they sign deals or when they're up to actually cash in. You know, it's like, hey, we got you. We had you 4 years, 5 years. Now we're not going to pay you. We're just going to buy another set of tires instead of keeping you. And I think he's in the right. I think running backs do need to be valued and need to be paid correctly. And Saquon is just taking a stand. I'm sure he's going to sign. I don't believe he's going to sit out because the last running back that did that, Le'Veon Bell, he's even admitted he made a mistake because that $10 million that they're offering Saquon, if he does decide to sit out for the season, you're not going to get that $10 million back. You don't make up money that you lost. you just don't. That $10 million. Let's say he signs next year for $30 million. Okay, he could sign for $30 million, but he's lost that $10 million. So that's really 40 that he should have had instead of 30. So I think I know that, and the Giants know he's not going to stay out. But all you can do in that situation is, hey, I'm not going to report. I'm not going to sign. And if he doesn't sign a new deal by the middle of July, a new long-term deal, there's no more negotiation. He either has to accept the franchise tag or sit out. So really, they have him over a barrel. It's still in favor of the owners. It's not in favor of the players. And because the NFLPA doesn't do a good job of truly representing them, that's why they find themselves in this position.
Absolutely. So do you think it has anything to do with Saquon's recent injuries that he's had, that he's seen as injury prone, and that may be a factor in this negotiation? What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's something that they throw out, but you look at what he's done the past 2 years, he's come back, but you can also look at, okay, they do this to all these backs and everybody hasn't been hurt. And in football, that's part of the game. You're going to get hurt. Now, I understand if you keep getting hurt all the time and you're not productive, but you got Saquon who's productive. He's been the only thing they've had on that team on offense for the past 5 years.
No Daniel Jones? Wait.
He's been the only thing they've had on that team for the past 5 years. Danny Dimes got paid $160 million for doing nothing, for being an average quarterback last year. If Saquon wasn't in the backfield with him last year, Danny Dimes would not have that new deal. So there's a reason why Saquon should and these other running backs should get paid, because of regardless of what people say outside an offensive line, a quarterback's best friend is a good running back, because that's who's back there helping you out, bailing you out if the pass rush is coming in, you need to get rid of the ball or whatever. So yeah, I don't think for him, injury is not a factor. He's already shown he's come back and he hasn't had any fall off whatsoever. So that's just something that owners will use to keep you from getting the money that you're justified in getting.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. So look at you see his passion and knowledge about football now. And when we go switch to basketball, we're gonna see if he has the same passion and the same knowledge and enthusiasm for basketball. But thank you so much for sharing that. So a little also what I mentioned earlier is that Tank lives in Vegas. So talk to me about the environment. How does it feel to be in Vegas right now after the Stanley Cup? And you watch hockey, right? Tank?
It's pandemonium. I mean, let's put it this way. This is what sum it up in a nutshell. Outside of T-Mobile Arena, which is where they were playing the last game, which they won 9-1, every play was almost like a power play because they overpowered them each and the whole 4 quarters. Anyway, there were over 20,000 people outside of the arena watching TVs, watching the game. We're in the desert. It's hot. You're outside of an arena watching a game because you couldn't get in.
Wow.
You're watching the game outside, over 20,000 people. Those people stayed out there after the game was over, after they handed the trophy, the cup around for 30 minutes. The people were still out there. The party didn't stop at 4:30 in the morning. We had a few people in my office who didn't come in because, hey, the Knights won. Vegas is truly a hockey town, and it's ironic because we're in the middle of the desert, and it's a cold weather sport generally. But the fact that they won the first title, and it only took them 6 years, only do this a lesser period of time. They did it in 5 years. So 6 years, it's an organic situation because they built this from scratch. They made it to the finals in their players remain from those
audio.
Okay. How's that?
It's better. So, yes.
Okay. So there's only 6 players remaining from the inaugural team, which makes it even more fascinating, the fact that they've rebuilt this organization. They had a reputation of not keeping anybody, but what they've done is grassroots. They've grown the talent. They brought in talent, and Vegas as a whole is a Knights town. I mean, everywhere you go, it's Golden Knights.
So it's now a hockey town. It's a hockey town.
It's a hockey town, and
it's a hockey. Okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah. I want to make sure I heard that right. Now, Vegas is a hockey town. So thanks so much for sharing that perspective for hockey and being in Vegas and what it's like. And so you were part of the celebration, right?
Well, the parade is tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So the strip is going to be shut down because the Knights are coming through.
Okay, all right. It's the Golden Knights.
The Golden Knights
are coming through. Thank you so much. So you're going to be at the parade, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to get out there. I have to probably get out there probably 2.5 hours early just to find somewhere to stand.
Wow. Well, take pictures for us. Make sure you share it with us on next Friday so you're going to give it a video so we can show a clip of the parade next Friday. Will you do that for us? I think the viewers would love to see a little bit of that from you, Tank. Can you show that to us?
Yeah, we can do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So now let's switch gears. Now, we talked earlier, there is another team that just won their first title. That will be the Denver Nuggets that defeated the Miami Heat 4-1 to win their first ever title. Now, this team is a loaded team. This team is a team that some people like to say goes back to that throwback basketball. Not a lot of stars, even though Jokic is a star, by the way. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But it's a team that's a fundamental team. Everybody knows their role. You have people like Aaron Gordon that was down in Orlando who came here, knew his role, took his role seriously, and made an impact onto the team as well. So congratulations again to the Denver Nuggets for defeating the Miami Heat 4-1. So that leads us to our question. Is Jokic the best player in the world at this time? So for me, I look at it like this. First, I'm gonna just be honest. this is the first time that I watched Jokic play, like really study his game and watch this game because in all transparency, I find the Nuggets to be very boring to watch. Right. So I really didn't watch a lot of them throughout the playoffs. I tried to watch a little bit against Minnesota, tried to watch a little bit against the Lakers. But to watch Jokic, he's one of those players where I was fearful every time he touched the ball. I mean, he is so slow. He is so unathletic. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, he literally gets like this much off the ground, and I kid you not, like this much off the ground, but you're always afraid when he gets the ball. And it's not because, oh, is he going to make the shot, but he can also pass the ball very well. He sees the ball very well. He can also dribble the ball. He can also, I mean, he is such a dynamic player. His one Achilles heel, in my opinion, when watching him, is his defense. I did see Bam drive on him a lot as well. So I did see that. And because he's not as athletic, that's his Achilles heels when it comes to the defensive end of the court. But offensive, there is really no shortage in his game when it comes to the offense. Again, if you look at his stat line, he's rebounding, he's assisting, so he's dishing the ball as well. And of course, he's scoring points. There's times when you're watching you look up and the man is scoring 40 points and you're like, how, when, why? I don't understand. And then you partner him with Jamal Murray, who he makes better as well. I mean, he's a dynamic player. I will say that, in my opinion, the best player, and sorry to all your LeBron fans out there, all your LeBron fans, all of those folks, but I'm going to go with Giannis. Giannis, just like Jokic, is a two-time MVP. He also, in the same year, won the MVP, also won the Defensive Player of the Year as well. They both have a title, right? Both have a MVP, Finals MVP title. What I really think makes them different is the defensive end of the court. Giannis plays defense. I mean, Giannis comes out of nowhere blocking shots. Giannis is a defense machine. Now, his Achilles heel is shooting. Now, a lot of us have seen him shoot, right? Shooting, free throws, shooting 3 points. And look, the thing is, he is not afraid. He's like Russell Westbrook in that regard. He is not afraid to shoot the ball. You know, no matter how ugly, no matter how much he misses, he is not afraid to shoot the ball. So, but I will have to give that honor to Giannis as far as the best player. Now, some people may say, okay, LaKisha, look at this now. Jokic took his team to the finals and won. Giannis, they got beat in the first round. So for the people that say that, let's think about the fact that Giannis was also hurt in that first round. He came back after missing games to be able to try to get his team over the hump. But you also saw how much that team needed him as well. Now, Miami, in my opinion, was not your traditional 8-seeded team, right?
Right.
But we did see how the team played when Giannis was not at his best. He wasn't at his best. He didn't play a few games, and they got beat by the Miami Heat. But I'm going to go with Giannis as the best player on the planet right now, in my opinion. That's who I'm going to go for, is Giannis. Jokic, I think, is a very, very, it's like 1A and 1B. And I think if Giannis can work on his shooting, whole nother level, right? Jokic, I think, again, getting better on the defensive end will be the only thing in his game that I see, because I don't know if we can make ourselves more athletic. Like, I don't know if he can be more athletic. I think that's just something some people naturally are athletic. They're just naturally gifted, right? But I do think that there's things he can work on his game to improve on the defensive end as well. But again, I think it's 1A and 1B as far as who's the best player on the planet. And I know some people want to throw in KD in that, but I'm going to be honest, the way that I saw KD play against Phoenix, against the Nuggets, I'm not sure if that would be an argument that we want to say now. I do think KD is one of the best on the planet. Don't get me wrong. But I think when this conversation comes down to it, I think it comes down to two players. And I know there's some Joel Embiid fans out there as well that may throw, he's laughing, they may throw Joel's name in there as well as far as the best player. But I'm going to go with Giannis, 1A and 1B. I'm going to go with Jokic. All right, Tank, what are your thoughts? This is his strong suit, right? All right.
I'm going to ask you this because you pointed out what would say are glaring weaknesses for you. Which one do you think is easier to improve on, Jokic's defense or Giannis's shooting? Because when you hear someone say, okay, a person's Achilles heel is shooting, it kind of sounds funny when you think of basketball, you're thinking of just shooting. When you say, but You're not saying that he can't shoot. You're saying, okay, that's his weakest point, and not that it's well, he's a 10 everywhere else and he's a 5 here. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put his shooting?
Well, you just asked me a few questions.
Yeah.
So let's go with the first one. I think, first of all, let me just say this. When I think basketball, yes, shooting is imperative because you have to score the most points, and you score the most points by shooting the ball. But I will also say that defense wins championships. And I know it sounds cliche. I know it sounds old school. And this is somebody that played basketball, and shooting was not my strong suit either, right? So I'm a little biased because I was a defense person. Like I was a defense first person. I was a scrappy, get on the floor kind of gal. And I do think that because shooting, you execute it, you try to change your form and things like that. I would think, and Giannis has improved his shooting. Is he Steph Curry? Absolutely not. So I'm gonna go with improving shooting versus defense. Defense, and I don't think that Jokic's Achilles heel with defense has to do with a lack of effort and hustle. Because sometimes people aren't good on the defensive end because they don't hustle. They don't try. They kind of trot along. James Harden, did I say that out loud? Yeah. I think they just don't try. I can't.
Just yeah.
It's the truth, right? So I don't think that it's a lack of effort as far as Jokic, because the man plays his heart out, and he is, and both of them being international players, they play with passion, they play with their heart on their sleeves, and that's what we can appreciate with them. But if I had to look at which I think would be the easiest, quickest to improve, I'm going to go with shooting. And again, that's just me being biased as a defensive player growing up and trying to improve. I mean, my daddy had me out there shooting shots. Did it help? A little bit, a wee bit. So I'm just curious, just from what you, I don't know if did you watch the NBA finals? I mean, what were your thoughts about?
I saw a little bit. I kept hearing the Joker. So let me say, okay, let me see who is this Joker. I'm thinking back, but I did observe some of the things you say. He's awkward looking, and for me, someone who's not a basketball guy, if I'm looking and you look awkward to me, you must be a little awkward. Doesn't mean you can't play. Doesn't mean anything. You just aren't, like you say, not as athletic as other people. But he appears to be technically and fundamentally sound.
Absolutely.
And technique and fundamentals takes you a long way in sports in general, because athleticism eventually fades away. But if you're technically and fundamentally sound, you can play a lot longer. And I like your 2 picks for 1A and 1B. And it's interesting that neither one of them are American. They're both from Europe. So what does that tell you about European basketball players at this point in time?
Absolutely. That's a great point. So if we are to look at first team all NBA, look at that. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing. And then you have don't forget about Luka, even Joel. Joel wasn't born in the U.S. either. So there's a lot of players that were born outside the U.S. that are dominating the NBA. And that just shows us is where the power shift has changed when it comes to basketball. It used to be U.S. players. There we go. Right here. Everybody else is striving to get there. But now you are seeing a shift in this. And again, to your point, fundamentals. I mean, we have somebody called the big fundamental. Let's not forget about Tim Duncan. So we know that the fundamentals works. It can get you championships. And if you look at the Denver Nuggets team, that is a fundamental sound team. Everybody playing their role, playing that good old school basketball. So yes. And I would just give you a B+ in your basketball talk, because you did a pretty good job. I'm going to say you did a pretty good job, right?
Yeah. But one more thing before you move on, because I know, but the fact you're looking at Denver and you kept emphasizing it and everything about them said it's a team. It's not one guy. It's a team. Everybody plays their role. It's just like Bill Belichick loves to say, do your job. And that's what you see with Denver. That everyone does their job. I haven't heard or seen anything about any bickering at all, or someone, wait a minute, I'm not getting the ball in crunch time. Why isn't he passing to me? I'm open. Why aren't they calling my number? You don't hear any of that with that. And when you got a fundamentally sound team, you have an opportunity to win multiple championships.
Absolutely. Nobody's saying, give me the damn ball. We won't say who said that. Google it, people. Google it.
No.
Right? We weren't going to say any names. Come on. We weren't going to say any names. Wow. Yeah. So shout out to Keyshawn Johnson, who did say, give me the damn ball, actually. So I just want to take a little bit of time. Again, we talked about Tori Bowie passing away from her complications. And we've seen a number of Black female athletes have complications in childbirth. And I just want to just take a second to talk about the importance of that as well. And not just with athletes, just Black women in general, the importance of making sure we get proper medical care during our time of pregnancy, but just in general, but definitely time while we're pregnant. We've seen other athletes like Allison Felix and Serena Williams have complications, whether it's eclampsia or preeclampsia, that have been devastating and life-threatening. And in the case of Tori, it was life-threatening, and she lost her life to that as well. So it's just, I really want to just take a time to really think about the importance of this. And this impacts all of us, no matter how much money you have, how big of a celebrity you are, just the importance of taking care of ourselves and getting the health care and making sure that we have the proper resources to take care of our mothers in our communities. And again, this is also inflicting our athletes as well. So I don't know, Tank, if you wanted to share any thoughts on that as well, about the impact of healthcare for women, especially our Black women and our Black athletes as well.
Well, obviously, I'm not a woman, but I hear often, particularly Black women talking. They need to have someone to advocate. You have to advocate for yourself and get someone else to do so as well. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to go to someone, a doctor, a qualified doctor, because all doctors aren't qualified, but you have to go to someone who looks like you in order to get the kind of treatment that you need oftentimes. Because I've heard, which one was it? One of the female athletes who said that the doctor told that she could handle whatever it is she was dealing with, but she was actually having real complications. And I hear women, just in Black women in general, saying that a lot of times that doctors don't take to heart when they tell them something is wrong and something is bothering me, and they kind of just look at them like, well, I don't see any reason why. I don't think there's anything wrong. My mom's not and wasn't an athlete, but she had an injury once, a back injury, and the doctor, he took the x-rays and he says, well, and she couldn't walk. And he says, well, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to walk. He said, to help stand her up, she almost collapsed because she couldn't walk. He said, well, there's no medical reason for you not to be able to walk. And she said, well, there's something wrong. And he's like, no, there's not. She walked when she came in. She should be walking. But we wound up having to I wound up saying, look, x-ray her spine again and go all the way down, because apparently you didn't go down far enough. I said, I bet you she's got a spinal contusion. Wow. He looked at me like I'm crazy. They run the x-rays. Miss Tanker, you have a spinal contusion. That's the reason why you're not able to walk. So it's important for you to advocate for yourself. And if you have someone with you, have them do it as well, because only you know what's going on with your body. You might not know the medical terms, but you know when something doesn't feel right. And you can't allow a doctor to brush you off to the side because they're trying to get to the next patient. Absolutely. What they're trying to do. So, I mean, prayers out to Bowie's family and the friends, because, it's something that really, I don't think it didn't have to happen.
Right. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad to hear that you were there to advocate for your mother. And like you said, it's about having those advocates there and to be able to pay that attention to it, because we know what's wrong with our bodies. We just don't have a medical reason for it. And sometimes we need those professionals to tell us like what's going on, because we know something's wrong. Like we know, but we are not 100% sure the medical reason behind it. So thank you again. And thank you for being, again, the advocate for your mother, because she definitely needed you in that time. So shifting gears, something serious, but on a different note, Ja Morant, as we know, has had two gun incidents that we know of, that's been public. And with that, Lil Wayne, maybe it's not Lil Wayne, Lil Wayne. Wait, Lil, did I say that right? Lil
Wayne.
Lil Wayne. Lil, not little. Pardon me. Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne reached out to Skip Bayless and said that he wanted to mentor, provide advice to Ja Morant. And of course, Skip Bayless decided, hey, you know, I'm friends with Wayne. I'm going to reach out to Ja, his team, to see if he will accept this. Well, turns out Ja was not accepting of this. He did not return any communications. And so that's that. And we also just found out that Ja has now received a 25-game suspension for his second gun incident. So let's talk about this. Let's dive into this a little bit. So we have two sides of this. We have Lil Wayne reaching out to try to offer mentorship, advice, guidance, whatnot. And then we also have the other side of it where the 25 games have been implemented. So he has a 25-game suspension for the second incident. So I'll start with you. Ken, what are your thoughts about either of those, Lil Wayne reaching out and him not responding, or the 25-game suspension? What are your thoughts, Tank?
Okay, I'll say one thing about the 25 games, and then I go to the Lil Wayne, then we can go back to that. 25-game suspension means 25 paychecks you don't get. Enough said.
Period, as they say, period.
Do you want to go 20? Does anyone want to go 25, go without 25 checks, paychecks? Okay. Now, as far as Lil Wayne, Weezy, reaching out and saying I want to give him some advice. I think it comes from a good place, and it's coming from someone who has been through that, who got money when they were young, was making stupid mistakes, wound up doing time in Rikers Island, and is looking out and saying this guy has the world in front of him. There's no telling how good and how great he can be on and off the court. I'm not telling him what to do. I just want to share with him my story and hopefully jar him and say, okay, I need to make some better decisions. Wayne is 40, so he's got some years on Morant, and he just wants to. I think it's good he's reaching out, because we always say, hey, you can't have a bunch of yes men around you. Or why isn't somebody reaching out trying to help these guys? You know, sometimes it takes somebody who's a peer or who's older, who's been through something to reach you. Everybody, and me, I look at it and I say, okay, Ja is what, 23? And I look at it and I say, okay, when I was 23, I'm glad it wasn't a camera around, but at the same time, I wasn't doing the things that he and these other guys do. I had people around me, as well as my upbringing and just my own ethics and morals, to keep me from doing certain things.
Right.
Unfortunately for him, that doesn't seem to be the case. And I'm not judging him, but I'm just going by looking at what I'm seeing. And granted, he did not break a law. Let's keep that in mind. He did not break a law. But you just talked to the commissioner after being suspended, saying, I learned this and I'm not going to do it again. And a short while later, why do you have this? Why do you have the gun? Oh, it was a toy gun. Okay, if it was a toy gun, why didn't you say that in the first? Why didn't you, hey, y'all, look, it's a toy. Look, you see the orange tip on the front and the back? It's a toy. It's a toy. And the NBA owners and the NBA in general, they're upset about it because it affects their bottom line. It affects the image. And Ja has to realize, okay, you have this much money, but you're not an island. You're still part of this business. You're still part of this corporation, this conglomerate. And one thing about billionaires, they don't want you messing with their money. In the streets, we say, hey, you effing up the church's money. They don't want you effing up the church's money. So I think it was good that Wayne's reaching out, and I think other athletes and other people who actually have his good at heart. I think it's good if they reach out to him as well and let him know, hey, look, we do care about you. We do want to see you grow. We do want to see you become the best that you can be and strive both on and off the court. So I don't have a problem with that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. So I love a lot of the points what you said. My thoughts with him ignoring the potential to be mentored by or guidance from Lil Wayne. I said it again, Lil Wayne. Sorry, Lil Wayne. It's all about choices, and Ja has a choice, and the choice was not to receive mentorship from Lil Wayne. He has his own reason, rhyme, reason. He owes none of us any explanation of why he decided to do that as well. We don't, maybe he DM Lil Wayne on his own. Maybe they had a private, I don't know, but he owes us nothing for that as well. Lil Wayne taking the initiative to do that, I think that's noble. I think it's mature. I think it's saying, hey, like you said, I've made some mistakes myself. I live that life that you think you're trying to live. So that could be a perspective as well. It's because he came from what I think Ja is trying to emulate for some strange reason. Maybe he's saying, let me talk to you about what this life really looks like. Let me tell you how it is to see this or be this or things like that. That could be the perspective that also Wayne was coming from as well, is to say, do you really want to live this? Because you hear a lot of the sports casters say, oh, Wayne don't know about, not Wayne, Ja Morant don't know about that life. Well, Wayne does. So maybe he's saying, let me sit down with you and talk to you about how this really is, right? How this can impact not just your bottom line, but your life. Exactly. You can lose your life over this. And he can say, I know people who have lost their life. And I don't mean just life in the ground. You could lose your life because you were in prison your entire life. That's not a life you want to live. So that could be the perspective. But we also have to want to receive help as well, right? So it's a choice. John may say, perhaps I'm not ready for what Lil Wayne have to say. Maybe I don't want it, whatever it is. But you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped, right? So until Ja is ready to receive it from whomever, doesn't matter who it is, it's going to be the same. Now, will this 25-game suspension change things? Only time will tell. But to your point, this was after he sat down with the commissioner and said, hey, I have changed. I'm going to make a difference. I hear you all these things. And did it again. 25 games. Do I feel that was just? I do. I feel it is a significant amount of time for him to think about the impact that it has. Like you said, on his bottom line, you ain't got to be a billionaire to not want to F with your money. Okay. I'm a 100,000-aire. Yep. And I don't want you messing with my money either. So everybody,
25 checks.
Exactly. So I don't need to be a million or billionaire to feel that same way. But I do think that hitting him at the bottom line, that has an impact. But then also watching your team may suffer. We don't know. They did play pretty well without him, the games that he didn't play. But who knows? They may have a huge impact on them as well. So that's another way that you may be impacted. Your image is now impacted. So this 25 games can have a rippling effect on him, not just the bottom line, because now when you talk about your images hit, how does that impact other opportunities that you may have? Again, whether it's endorsements and money or opportunities to do charitable work where they may say, hey, you seem to really endorse guns and maybe promote violence. We don't want that for our organization. And John may say, well, it was just a gun. It was, it's just playing around. Well, for some people, you don't want to be associated with that image and that brand. So it can have a rippling effect, not just on him, but his loved ones. We're hearing a lot of people blame his mother, saying she caused a lot of this, so some of the incidents outside of the gun thing, because she called him when she was having, so now he is having an impact on your other ones. His sister, it has a scholarship to play basketball. How's that going to impact her? Are people going to say things to her in the stand? So we have to think about when we are in the spotlight and his light is bright. When we're in the spotlight, we have to think about how what we do impacts others around us. Especially in the day and age of social media It's not just you that's impacted, it's every single person that touches the tentacles that you have in your life. So I think that 25 game is just with the history of things. And I think it's enough time, hopefully, for him to be able to think about not only monetary, but how does this impact my future livelihood, my parents, my sister, my daughter, and other people around me who look up to me as well. That's what I hope for Ja Morant.
Yes, and also, there's a thing known as reading the room. As much stuff we have going on in the media every day about gun violence, things of that nature. It just makes things worse for him because, granted, he hadn't shot anybody, but the simple fact that he was waving the gun in the video and he pulled the gun out in the club, it's just a bad look. Again, he hasn't broken a law,
Right.
but sometimes just because it's not illegal doesn't mean that it's not wrong. And that's what people get caught up in. Well, he didn't break a law. Yeah, but just because I didn't break a law doesn't mean what I did wasn't wrong. Doesn't
Right.
mean that it doesn't have consequences.
Right. It's something called a moral compass and a moral clause that some of us have in our contracts at our jobs that we may not realize it because we just signed on the dotted line when we were offered the job. But there's a moral thing that we have to think about as well. That also, just because it's not legal doesn't mean, again, it doesn't hurt the brand. And you talked about it beautifully, is that he is part of a bigger entity called the National Basketball Association. And Ja was looked at as one of those young people that can take the baton when LeBron retires, when Steph retires. Like, he was one of those people to say, oh, he's next up. He's next up in line, because of his acrobatic play, the way he can fly high and things like that. He can entertain a crowd. But the NBA may think twice about that, having you be one of those next generation, if you're
Right.
doing these things that impact their bottom line as well. So he has to think about it on a grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, I'm doing well, but like you said, you're not working in a silo, right? And you're not even working in a silo in your actual job, which is to be on a team.
Exactly.
It's not even just the NBA. It's like, it starts with those other players that play with you that are also impacted. So if you're doing a siloed individual sport, perhaps even then it may hurt the brand of the actual entity, but you're also on a team, and it hurts on that level as well. So good points you brought up there too. Yeah.
So hopefully he gets it together. I mean, just not even for basketball, just for him in his life. He can't go around. I always call it. He can't go around living rap lyrics, living rap videos. Because,
yeah, I know you can't do that. I mean, that's why Lil Wayne will be instrumental and say, "Hey, you want to live these lyrics? Let's take a walk in this life. See if you really want to live that life." Because I don't know anybody wants to live that life. That seems scary, but
what? Oh, no, you don't need to do that. $200 million, man. I'm gone. I'm not dealing with none of this mess.
I may not deal with family members. I'm just saying. Sorry, family. I may not deal with you either. So absolutely good point. So we just heard from our guest, everyone. She will not be available to do the interview today. She's under the weather. Completely understand that. I am actually first day recovering from being under the weather as well. So we hope that you get well soon. Keonna, we look forward to interviewing you in the near future. Again, hope that you get well soon. So this leads us to our last segment, which is One Gotta Go. We're going to spend just a few minutes on this. So we have 4 iconic sports legends. And we're going to talk about the global impact. Now, I will share with you that each and every single one of them has had a global impact on their sport. Now, of them, if you have to decide one has to go, who is that going to be? So Tank and I are going to talk about these 4 fabulous athletes and legends. And we're going to see, are we going to pick the same person who has to go? So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about this. All right, Tank. So let's see if everybody is ready for us to show them who the 4 sports legends are. So let me go ahead and put them here. Okay, so if you cannot see them and do not recognize these individuals, the first one is one of my favorites. Mr. Tiger Woods.
Tiger
Yay!
Woods.
Tiger Woods. Second, I mentioned her earlier, Miss Serena Williams, Muhammad Ali, the great Muhammad Ali, and then, and no argument here, the best NBA player ever, Michael Jordan. So each of these individuals have had a global impact on their sport. But if you had to choose which one has to go, which one would it be? So Tank, this is your favorite segment. You love to debate this and talk about this. So let's hear, what do you say? And let's see if I agree with you and who has to go. Tank, who you got?
Okay, well, all of them have resumes to speak for themselves. And when we talk about global impact, we're talking about not just what they did on the field or on the court, but also off as well, because these are people who are icons who are known worldwide. They're in worldwide sports. There's certain sports that are generally just germane to the U.S., but these sports are worldwide. You can't go anywhere in the world without they having golf courses and where they're having major events. Tennis, the same. Boxing, there's a reason why they call it the world heavyweight champ. Michael Jordan, if for no other reason, people wearing his shoes all over the place. But so for me, who's not going to go, who can't go, and who will never go, Muhammad Ali will never go anywhere. And the reason why is because not only, like I said, not just what he did in the ring, but because of the stance he took outside of the ring by saying, hey, I'm not going to go fight in a war against people who I have nothing against, who've never done anything to me. And my religious beliefs tell me that I don't need to and I shouldn't do this. And if it means I'm going to prison because I'm not going over to kill what I deem as innocent people, I'm not doing it. That made the world love Ali, but crazily enough, it made America, a certain portion of America, hate Ali. Ali is one of those people who became even greater after his career was over. He has, anywhere you go in the world, you say Ali, they know exactly who you're talking about and what you're talking about. His impact is phenomenal. Serena Williams, what she did for tennis, what she did for young girls who look like her, and also for those who don't look like her, is undeniable. Not just what she did on the court. On the court, we already know 39 majors, 23 singles, 2 mixed doubles, 14 doubles. And I think she's the greatest women's tennis player ever. I don't think there's anyone that you could put, any other woman in the history of the sport that you could have her play against and she not beat them.
In both of their primes, we want to know.
Yeah, okay. Everyone in their prime.
In their prime.
Yeah. The fact that she has some ownership in the Miami Dolphins and she's done other things. She's become a fashion icon as well for sports, particularly sports fashion. She's also helped grow tennis. She helped grow tennis, not just in the US, but worldwide, because think about it. Tennis goes on, Serena's playing. Oh, you're going to watch. I don't watch tennis. I don't watch tennis. You don't. Oh, Serena Williams is playing. Oh, I'll check her out. People watch because she's there. I don't think there's any reason she's not going anywhere. Michael Jordan, he's about like Ali as far as known for other things. We all know about the basketball prize. But basically, for me, his global impact, has been the shoes. He's made tennis shoes a fashion statement. You have people wearing tennis shoes with suits and with gowns and all of that because the Jordan brand. Tiger Woods, again, same impact as Serena did as far as making people who look like him as well around the world tune in and watch golf. Tiger Woods, in my opinion, is probably the most intimidating athlete that we've seen in sports. And not physically, but when Tiger was playing in his prime, if he wasn't ahead, this is what you saw from everybody. I know he coming. How far back is he before he catch me? Because you knew inevitably he was going to catch you and win. I think he's done so much to grow the game of golf worldwide. You can't fight against myself. I think Jordan has to go. I think because there are other things that he had. These others had their feet in other things. Ali and Serena have had activism as well. Tiger has been a little, hasn't been as much, but he's
Tiger hasn't been at all. But okay.
Yeah. But I just think Jordan has Jordan because
wow.
It's close. If you get rid of Tiger instead, I wouldn't argue. But for me, it would be Jordan.
I need to take a second. Yeah. Wow. He said Michael Jordan. Wow. So I do not disagree with the accolades that you mentioned for all four of them, right? Because arguably, depending on who you talk to, because there's always some right? Who would agree that this is the four greatest players in their respective sports, right? There are some people that would say each of them is the greatest. I am shocked that you said, I mean, MJ, like, oh my goodness. MJ. Not to mention MJ was on that dream team, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of stars on it, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But that dream team that he was one of the stars on changed the face of Olympic basketball. And it was like the most dominant team we'd ever seen, ever. And again, it was a team sport, don't get me wrong. The commercial impact of MJ. You said Nike. Did you forget about Gatorade too? Did you forget about that too? Mike, like to be like Mike, be like Mike, like Mike, like to be. Did you forget the song? You forgot the song too? But I remember that. Okay, as a kid. Michael Jordan, and maybe we need to go back because you did say you know what, he told everybody he wasn't a basketball guy. So I'm just shocked, and Michael Jordan is selected as to go for global impact. Okay, with that being said, sorry, I digress because clearly that is not who I'm picking. All right, so yeah. I do agree with you. And for everyone that doesn't know, we have production meetings and things like that. So we talked about this. Off the court, off the grass, clay, whatever court, whatever you're doing is important for global impact. And what you said about Muhammad Ali is great. I remember in my senior pageant, I said that I wanted to meet Ali. That was the celebrity I wanted to meet. And I was 17. So I just thought it was so cool that he stood up for what he believed at a time that it was not cool, unpopular, dangerous, very dangerous, life-threatening to do that. And the impact was phenomenal. And like you said, there were a lot of people that hated this man. And his legacy lives on. That impact carries weight, right? Serena, of course. You gave all of her wonderful accolades on the court and on the grass and tennis court, and talked about her impact with women. We just talked about women's health. She's an advocate for that. Fashion, getting its ownership. Her and her husband are doing great things as well. We got Tiger. I love Tiger. Love Tiger. He's like one of my favorites, right? His impact, like you said, even now, like he can go out there with one leg and everybody will somehow still be afraid. Or somehow now the purse goes up because Tiger's there, because now there's more eyes on it. We don't care if he wins or loses at this point. We just want to see him. Like Tiger's here. What? And I heard some of the golfers say, probably last year, they were just like, no, we love Tiger being here because we get to make more money when he's here. Right. So if it has to be anyone I selected, and I hate to say this, it would be Serena. That's who I would pick. Go ahead. That's who I would pick. And again, this is so hard. This is so hard. And I feel bad because I love Serena. Oh my gosh. I love her immensely. Tennis is a big global game, and there are a lot of great tennis players that abroad that have a great impact on tennis worldwide. And so I'm gonna pick Serena. And I hate to say that because she my girl. She doesn't know she my girl, but she my girl. We friends. She just don't know it. So that's who I picked. So we had at least we both said Ali. There was no debating about that. I think it was just debate for the other three, but I think that Ali was one that we both agreed his impact, not just in boxing, but also in life as a humanitarian, as an advocate, as an ally, as an activist, was so much more instrumental in his body of work than he could have ever done in the boxing ring. So.
Yeah, and I remember when Tiger first came into prominence, you could go to golf courses and you saw all these people, and I'm sure it was going on not just in America. You saw all these people who never thought about golf out there dressing like Tiger or wearing, or some people who, hey, I don't know what I'm supposed to wear, but they would be out there in their basketball shorts and tank top, but they're out there playing. I'm Tiger Woods. You had old men picking it up. You had young people picking it up. And to this day, there are people who are still playing because, hey, I saw Tiger play and there was something I saw him and there was something about him that made me want to go and do it. And as far as golf also, I mean, just because it's a boring sport to me. It's a boring activity. But there's something about seeing when Tiger does it, it's just different. I mean, I can't explain it. It's just different. I mean, he looks different physically. He looks different. He looks like an athlete. He doesn't look like the dude in your office who goes out and plays like a weekend athlete.
Right.
I mean, but Jordan, I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with him not being eliminated. It's just, personal preference. And like you said, all of them are great. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I had to pick somebody. I had to pick somebody, but if I had my choice, nobody would go. That's how I think. That's how we go through it. Yeah, but it's an interesting debate, and I'm looking forward to having many more of these in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of KB Sports World. We got it under our belt, Tank. Yay! Congratulations to us. Make sure to check us out every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we talk about the weekly rewind. We're also going to talk about the hot topics and one got to go. And we're going to talk about KB's Corner and what's happening and some really important areas of sports. So until next time, we'll see you later. I am LaKisha KB Brooks with KB Sports World. See you next week.
Peace.